name is Kat Palmer. She was born and raised in Orange County, the OC. And she developed her insatiable romance with photography at 15 years of age against the backdrop of LA, which was a place teeming with racial divides, cultural diversity, and economic inequality. Her worldview further evolved as she immersed herself in the streets of Mexico, developing a new obsession that would plague her art forever, which was human empowerment. Kat has devoted her craft to the expression of meaning through images and has found a powerful voice in women's empowerment. Her empowerment themes have been self-esteem, peace, self-reliance, I am human, there's no place like home, peace to the Middle East, age of aesthetics and defying society's definition of beauty, superhero women, I have a secret, and my personal favorite, keep the politicians out of our vagina. So her focus is on a deep-seated belief that femininity and beauty are not physical attributes, but rather attributes of the heart. Her images of confident and hopeful women, surrounded in words of encouragement, reveal the true beauty of a powerful woman. She has exhibited all over the Salt Lake Valley. She's won many awards, including 3 Arties from City Weekly, and most recently 2 Fabby Awards from Q Salt Lake. So please welcome Kat Palmer.
Thank you. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, most of you before this event have not heard of me, don't know who I am, don't know what I do, right? I mean, there's a handful of you I know that do, but am I right? Like, raise your hand if you've never heard of what I do. This is great. I love speaking to new audiences. Yeah, so what she said, basically. And we're going to start from the very beginning, because it's a very good place to start. Sorry, they did Sound of Music songs. I'm really nerdy with musicals. Anyway, so I started at age 15, like she said, in Orange County in Mexico. This was a picture, don't judge me, like I was 15 when I took this, right? Shooting film, like I wasn't like that good yet, but, and I mainly focused on, and this was in LA, this was from my first roll of film. Yeah, film. We had film when I was a kid, when I was your age. So we didn't have digital photography or cell phones. And this was 21 years ago. I started focusing with homeless people. Were really intriguing to me, and I've shot them all over the nation. That sounds terrible, but I don't know how else to say. I've captured them, I've photographed them, but I've shot them all over the nation. And so this was my start. I realize I talk too fast, so I do need to slow down sometimes. They ended up being famous punk rockers that I used to shoot in LA. I don't know how or why my guardians allowed me to go to really seedy areas and take photographs as a teenager, but I was really lucky that I had parents that or grandparents that just kind of let me be me. And I also don't think they knew what I was doing at the time. I think I was like, I'm taking acting classes, which I was. I'd go take acting classes, and then when acting classes were done, I would be in LA photographing people. So this is something it doesn't have to do with activism. I just think it's interesting. When I was 16 years old, does this show? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay. When I was 16 years old, you know, most photographers, when they're starting out, no matter what age, they're usually just photographing their friends, right? And so when I was 16, I photographed my friend Amber, and now we've made it tradition that every 10 years we photograph on the same steps and the same bench. And so this was her in 2006, and then just last week, this was her in 2016. I go back to Orange County every year, and we do this project, and it's kind of fun. It's not activism, though, so we'll get into that. So my, oh wow, it's just going, okay. This was the last pretty picture for the sake of pretty pictures that I took. I mean, women are beautiful, right? They're nice to look at. I like to photograph them. But there was something lacking for me as a photographer and as an artist to just take a pretty photograph. And I don't do landscapes. I mean, I'm not putting you down if you do, but it just doesn't interest me. So then this series started here, and he eventually became my logo that you can see. And this was my Peace to the Middle East series. When George W. Bush was in office, he gave me a lot to work with, and I use and focus a lot of my anger or issues that I'm having personally, and I put it into my artwork. So this was my Peace to the Middle East series, and this was shot the same year that this one was shot, and this was 2006. And from there, and this was my first series I did with gas masks. A lot of you don't know because you're just learning about me, but I collect gas masks, and we'll go into that in a little bit. I now have 15 in my collection, but this was the first one. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm not technology savvy. I have 4 typewriters and record players and VHS players, computers. So this was this girl here in the middle, she was the girl in the bathtub. So the pretty little girl in the bathtub, I stopped taking pretty pictures of her, and then I covered up her pretty little face and wrote all over her body. And so this was my I Am Human series. And I started to be known as a political photographer to the point that I didn't want to be known as a political photographer anymore. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself and have people think every time they hear Kat Palmer, politics, 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 because I was attacking a lot of politics stuff. This was the piece finished. So I work with metal, and I put my images on metal and do like a spray paint urban art thing with them. So the University of Utah had me come up, and because, again, people were pigeonholing me, they're like, oh, we need a political photographer, let's have Kat Palmer. So I had to start rebranding myself a little bit. But this was a series I did where I don't remember how many women I had, but this was the first time I shot out at the salt flats, and I covered their mouths with surgical masks. I found that I was covering women's mouths a lot in my artwork, whether it be with a gas mask, with duct tape, with surgical masks, and I didn't realize until long after why I was doing that. I was raised LDS. I served in the Young Women's Presidency for 10 years. I was married in the Mormon temple, and I wore garments for 12 years. And it didn't dawn on me until I left that faith that I was covering up those women's mouths for a reason, because I felt repressed. I felt like I couldn't speak. I felt like I was feeling stifled, right, as a feminist in a community where you can't really be a feminist. And so this is me working with the models at that time, and this was 2007 that I was working with them. Sorry, I really don't know how to use this thing. We'll go back. So this was a series I did, and sometimes I use punk rock lyrics in my work, and these were some punk rock lyrics here. And this was a lyric from a band that I love. And so when I work with these women, sorry, was this the first one? Yeah, this is the first one. When I work with these women, oh no, this is the second one, sorry. So in 2009, I gathered a bigger group of people. So this last one was in 2007. And I often, when I tackle these projects that I do, and I like working with big groups of people, mainly women. I'm starting to dabble with working with men. But when I work with these big groups of people, I think as an artist, like we critique ourselves and we can see everything that we did wrong, right? And so I go and redo the project. So this I redid in 2009. And with this series, this was 39 women, and I did sneak in one man. He's right there. With these women, they had to write into me 3 things that they loved about themselves. And then as a group, they had to tell the group what they loved about themselves. We had women that traveled from out of state to be a part of this project, and they ranged from age 13 to 78, I believe. And I wrapped them in this red cloth, which for me represented society's standards of what they tell you to be beautiful, how they tell you to be feminine, how they tell you need to look, how they tell you need to act like a lady, right? All these things. And so I wrapped them in this and photographed that, and then they broke free of that and danced. So as I started doing these series, I was realizing I was healing a part of my soul. At this time, when I did this series, I had postpartum depression with my second son. And when I finished this series, it was gone. It's I guess, my way of therapy. Art is so therapeutic. This was their feet. I love feet. I love photographing feet. This series here, and we don't really get into activism until later in my career, but this still shows you the journey of what happened. There's no place like home. I don't like how much people rag on Utah. I love Utah. I love Salt Lake City. I get that there's quirks, right? But a lot of states have quirks. Being raised in the Los Angeles area, I love living in Salt Lake. And so I did this series of There's No Place Like Home. And this is the actual photograph. That was the art piece back. I think we have a lot of good things here. So again, I do a rainbow series. And this is the first time I did it, and I saw all the mistakes in it. I had people show up in colors. This is not photoshopped. I actually don't do a lot of Photoshop with my images. And so I recreated it on the salt flats. I had people come out because I thought it just looked better. And this is an activism piece, and you'll see it here. This piece is titled Jesus Said Love Everyone, or Stop Doing Hateful Shit in My Name. So it's actually going to be my Christmas card this year with the second. So I released this on, I don't know, oh, it's not here, it's later on. I released that on Marriage Equality Day, which was June 26th of last year, when the nation finally made it legal for everyone to marry. This was a series I did with 14 women who I had shaved their heads, and people are like, you have a lot of friends. And I said, no, I don't. These were strangers. I think I knew like 2 or 3 of them, but the rest of them, I had no clue who they were. I don't like a lot of color as far as dresses, and I like white. I like a lot of white as far as I shot in black and white for many years. And so for me, this was stepping out of my comfort zone of having them wear florally dresses. I'm also really not into dresses. And so, but I wanted it to be so obvious that these were women that you were looking at and not men. And at the exhibit, if somebody was walking by, I wanted them to realize it was 14 women with shaved heads. None of them had cancer. They all willingly participated in this. And this is just the series. And this was in 2010. I don't know why this one's here. Sorry, we're just gonna keep going. I love Star Wars. This one here, it was celebrating superhero women. I just had women of all walks of life. Oh my gosh, of all walks of life. So basically what I've started doing, I've built my social media up so that now I am an activist. So I did all this empowering stuff for women, right, for years, but it's not really activism, right? So now I work with organizations like UCASA, the Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault, the Rape Recovery Center. I have a friend on the police department who is a huge advocate and is working nationwide in retraining officers and getting information out there for sexual assault and how they talk to survivors and victims. Sorry, I'm not in charge of that. These are just the links, the people I'm involved with. I also am a huge advocate for, I mean, we live in a rape culture, right? So, and retraining our children, training how we're raising our little boys and how we're raising our little girls. And, not asking women to cover up so that they don't get raped, right? So that slowly evolved from this, of me doing stuff to empower women, to activism now. And most of my followers, I suppose if you ask them to describe me in a few words, or what things they think of when they think of me, these are the things that they think of, and these are the things that get posted on my Facebook page now daily, which I right now don't have a Facebook, which is terrible. We don't need to go into it, but right now Facebook has me banned. And it's not actually anything I did wrong for once. But but so now I'm a cleaner activist. I'm an activist for women. I'm an activist for. So now these are the things that get posted every day on my page, which I absolutely love. And so, I have hairy armpits, but it's neither here or there. But anyways, but it's just people every day that think of me, and this is what they think of when they think of me. And that makes me really, really happy, that I'm not just being known for politics, and I'm not just being known for, one thing, but I won't get into all of it. Later on, when I'm reinstated on Facebook, you can go stalk my page because it's pretty entertaining. And gas masks, which we're going to get into. So these are my children. So my children are now activists with me. I don't know if you saw my leg piece, but it's part of the activism that I do. I'm a cleaner activist for this state. I shoot photographs and images that are free for anybody to use, as long as it's getting awareness out there. And I will shoot activism pieces for free to get awareness out. Right now, I'm getting involved with not necessarily the hashtag Black Lives Matter, but along those lines, but we're doing it here more locally in Utah. And so I will shoot stuff like this. I normally charge a fair amount of money, but if it's something near and dear to my heart, I just want to get education and word out. So these are my children, Jack and Lucas, and they're his little doll, Kit, at the Cleaner Activist thing from last year, the rally. And, this is not an activism piece, but there you go. That's what I do. Oh gosh, the Last Supper. So I don't know how many of you guys saw the Last Supper that I did with the 12 Badasses of Salt Lake City, but I basically got together a bunch of local celebrities that, again, I love Salt Lake and I love what Salt Lake is made up of, and to me, these are people that make up Salt Lake City. And so I got them together and took a photograph of them with Jesus, who is the same Jesus there. And the Salt Lake Tribune ran it, so I'm not sure who saw it. I have a secret. I collected secrets from, I don't know, over 700 women for 4 years. So this was this show. People could walk around and read all the secrets. And then I invited some artists to come paint and draw their favorite secrets. This was the exhibit of the Age of Aesthetics for the shaved head people. This was an exhibit I did. It was a little controversial. Surprising, I know. That I bought a camera for a soldier in Afghanistan, and he would shoot over there because he was fighting in a war that he didn't believe in. And so I thought that was important to bring light to that subject. And that is a dead body you're looking at. So we did this exhibit together called Imagine, and he was actually able to come back for the exhibit, which was kind of cool. It just worked out. And he would send me the images, and then I would make art pieces out of it. And then he had lost 12 people in his unit. So these were the finished art pieces there. He lost 12 people in his unit, and so a lot of them were artists. So we had the family members send in their artwork, and I guess there was more than 12, but that's how many people had fallen in his unit. This is what my studio looks like at any given time. It's really messy. I don't know any artist studio that is not messy. So we're gonna go through these because I've only got 5 minutes, but we'll do a Q&A afterwards. This was the exhibit I did up at but you can see, I don't know if you saw the duct tape, but anyway. I really have an obsession with gas masks. Like I said, I own 15. I get really excited when families are like, bring your gas masks so we can shoot, or bride and grooms are like, bring it to the wedding so we can shoot. This was a shoot I did in San Francisco for some of my clients. Oh, here we go, marriage equality for all, yay. This is the series I did with Keep the Politicians Out of Your Vagina, Our Vagina. This was the second part. So again, like I said, I do part 1, I see the mistakes I make, and then I go and do part 2. So I do stand with Planned Parenthood, and I want to end my last 5 minutes on a documentary that was recently made on my most recent project.
Just love him so much, I just can't imagine that he wouldn't be around. But I also think that it's important for everyone to have their rights, but it's also hard for me to imagine like these babies not coming to the earth.
For the last decade, I have been an advocate for women's rights. Being a woman, living in the worst state for women, and having our governor trying to take away our healthcare rights, I'm very passionate about this.
When everything was going on, it felt as though my life was falling apart. I mean, I knew that I was pregnant, but I refused to acknowledge it because I was terrified of the reality, so I kept putting it off.
Please put me to bed and turn down the light.
We are a religious state, and we are run by a religion. Unfortunately, a lot of the choices that are made higher up, they do directly affect the women of this state. Our voice is not heard as loudly as the men's, unfortunately. I found myself with somebody that had lied to me, and it was the first time that I had not used my own condoms.
I started planning this trip to Vegas because I could not bear to tell my mom.
By then it was a little bit too late to take the morning after pill, so I kept telling some things for a few weeks.
I was sitting at the counter with my mom, and we were talking about something totally random, and I just blurted out, "Mom, I think I'm pregnant."
Like, I am a single mom of 2 kids. I'm running my own business. I am not in that position right now.
The emotional aspect and the trauma that comes from just having to think about where, how, and when, and why you're going to get the abortion.
As me, as a young Mormon woman, married, getting my healthcare needs through Planned Parenthood, because you don't have to have health insurance to go there. And they do a sliding scale for what you can afford.
Without Planned Parenthood, I would not have been able to get my abortion here.
The majority of what they're doing, it's not abortions. They're helping check for STDs. They're helping educate people. They're helping prevent pregnancies, right? So they're also doing mammograms, pap smears, whatnot. So that a lot of what they're doing helps women.
I can't even imagine it. I can't imagine how much more difficult my experience would be, how much more dangerous everybody else's experiences will be.
But really it's educating them to prevent pregnancies. And we want to prevent these abortions from happening.
I support women being able to make their own choices about their future and their bodies.
I don't regret it. I'm thankful those services for their coming. I am able to be a better mom to my kids.
We didn't get arrested, by the way. We thought we would be. We got out of there before security got there. So, all right. Aw, that's really precious. Right after we talk about abortions, that's adorable. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up to Q&A time. So you can seriously ask me anything. I'm obviously an open book, so just don't be surprised at what my answer may be. Black, just like my heart. Really, though. It's funny, I recently packed, oh my gosh, what's happening here? I really don't know how to use computers, it's great. And it's funny because I'm a photographer, right? Oh, there we go. I'm just gonna thumb through these while we talk. I recently packed for a trip to Los Angeles last week, and I packed a lot of clothing, and I was really stoked because I had some color in my wardrobe. It was dark blue. It was a whole bunch of black, dark gray, and dark blue, so black. What other questions do you guys have? And I'm okay if I offended you, like I really am, but what other questions do you have? Governor Gary Herbert for a while had me blocked on social media. Yeah, I forget. Let's see if did I show you that one? It was the one that said, "Fuck you, Governor Herbert." Maybe I didn't add it. Did I not add it? I thought I did. It was beforehand? Okay. Okay. What? Outcomes? The cool thing is it's so funny that people worry about offending people in this state, because actually my business has really grown. The people, of course there's gonna be people that don't hire me, right? Because of what I stand for and what I speak about. But there's a lot more people out there that do resonate. And I realized a long time ago that I was blessed with a platform, and I wasn't gonna waste that platform. That's why I just don't take pretty pictures for the sake of pretty pictures, because what I'm doing is giving a voice to people that need it. I will speak about my sexual assault. I will speak about terminating a pregnancy. I speak about the things that I do and have experienced, because it is giving a voice to those people that are sometimes too scared to speak up. And I'm seeing a lot more people speaking up. I recently blogged. My blog is katpalmer.blogspot.com. It's crazy, and you guys should go read it. But I recently went into detail about one of my sexual assaults. And the people that came forward, the men and women who have never come forward and never shared their story, were sharing it publicly on my page, privately messaging me, sending me their stories, and it gave them a voice. And so I'm finding, because of my voice, other people are able to have a voice. And so that's what I'm seeing. We're also trying to change things in this state. It's slow. Get out there and vote next election, please. So the grassroots level is where you really can make a difference. So What other questions do you guys have? Don't be shy. I like talking. Bob. Am I still doing film? That's a good question. Not right now. I still own all the stuff, and I actually own everything for a dark room. I just need a dark room. I've become incredibly, I don't know if the word lazy or just super efficient. I'm not sure which one. But digital has just, I joined the dark side of digital in 2006. And it's just been a lot easier and more efficient when I'm shooting weddings and doing things. But I'd like to go back to film with my art. I don't know that I'll ever go back to film with weddings and families because it's just cost effectiveness. But I would like to go, I plan to return to film one day, yeah. That's what I went to college for. I did go to college. So what other questions do you guys have? Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Most of what Planned Parenthood does is preventing pregnancies and testing for STDs and doing mammograms, and they help guys. They snip guys. They will give you a vasectomy. It's amazing. And so I get upset that people, they believe the propaganda that they hear, including our governor, who doesn't do any amount of research. And there's just a lot of misinformation out there. And so I really wanted to bring light to what they do. And without them, you're going to have... People say that they're pro-life, right? But they're not. They're pro-birth. Because what's happening is these children are being born into situations where they're abused, they're neglected, terrible things are happening to these children. They don't have enough to eat. And they're thinking that that's better, that happens, right? That they're not actually going in and advocating and working with these people to help these children that are in terrible situations. And so the funding was pulled from Texas, and right now 240,000 women are, those abortions are still going to happen, but unfortunately now they're happening in homes, and a lot of people are at risk, and a lot of terrible things are happening in Texas right now. And so so that's why we wanted to bring light to that, because they do prevent things, and without them they're not going to, you're going to see STDs rise and a lot more children born into really bad situations. So yeah. What other questions do you guys have? Yes. Oops. Zero, all on our own. Yeah, I don't know how, the person that's behind this wants to stay anonymous. He's a person that I mentor, a young, privileged child, and he's also a feminist and an activist, and so so he funded the project, but now Planned Parenthood loved it so much that they're showing it at their events. So yeah, we did this completely, it was his baby, and he pulled me in because he knows of my work with what I do. And so yeah, 4 a.m. we hung 2,000 coat hangers at the state capitol, and didn't get caught. The key is you have to do it before 6 a.m. The security comes on at 6 a.m. Yes. I don't hate any question. Go ahead. Oh yeah, that's just sold, which is why it's with me today, because I'm delivering it. So I'm a cleaner activist. I also I'm a little rowdy, and I don't know what the right word is when you don't have a lot of respect for things, but I love incorporating things that kind of ruffle feathers and upset people a little bit. And so I feel like there's a lot of people in this state that care or pretend to care about Jesus, but they don't care about things that are actually affecting their children and their children's health. And so I wanted to do a piece to say, hey, Jesus cares about the air. And so your children are gonna die if you don't clean up this air. And so so I put a really shitty bathrobe on my friend and wrapped him in some satin and took a picture, and that's an Israeli civilian issued gas mask there. But yeah, it's just my activism and just hoping to bring up more awareness and get people talking. Because the thing is if I was boring, people wouldn't be talking. And so even when they say hateful, mean things about me and the hate mail I get, at least they're talking. So the dialogue needs to start. Oh. Right. Right. For me, the best way to explain this, I get that question a lot. She asked, what is it about gas masks I like? The best way I've learned to explain this is that some people like pretty flowers, and they think flowers are really pretty, or they like landscapes of sunsets, that sort of thing. I don't judge you if you do. For me, gas masks are just really pretty and aesthetically pleasing to me. And I had a former boyfriend, instead of buying me flowers, he'd buy me gas masks. So it just worked. And I just like, I don't know, I like the way they look. And as terrible as it is, because I know oil refineries are awful, I love the way they look too. Like, I love industrial, raw metal. I have a lot of metal in our home. Yeah, I love military grade stuff. Like, I use a lot of old army trunks for my coffee tables, and old metal ballot boxes as my end tables, and bombs. I turn bombs into tables. And so I just love the way metal, I guess some people feel very cold in my home because I don't like a lot of wood, and I guess like a lot of quote unquote traditionally pretty things, but to me they're just pretty. Yeah. No, I just really aesthetically enjoy the way they look. And then since then, the last few years, I've been heavily involved in clean air activism, so it works. And I think that's why they reached out to me, is because they knew of my collection. And so I shoot like Santa Claus with a bunch of kids on a playground, and then we send it to the governor saying, you know, all we want for Christmas is clean air. So, yeah. I should have included that picture because it's pretty epic, but I don't know where it is. I'm getting lipstick all over this. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.